everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Taste of Art program, a program that is offered in partnership with Lehigh University Art Galleries and Maite Gomez-Rejon from ArtBites. And we are so excited today to connect with an exhibition that will be on view at the Lehigh University Art Galleries, main galleries located in Zollner Art Center, called Thinking Through Drawing, works on paper, drawings, and sketchbooks from the collection and community. We will also have an extension of this exhibition on view on the South Bethlehem Greenway, which pairs works of art from community submissions with works from our collection. So we're really excited to have a conversation about the ways that drawing, sketching, doodling really help us think through how we view the world, how we kind of learn new things, and how we share out our experiences with others. And so we have a real variety of works in the collection. One of the things that we're so thrilled to have to exhibit as part of this exhibition is a sketchbook from Maurice Prendergast, which was a gift of Douglas Breen, who is from the class of '68, and he donated this to the museum in honor of his 50th reunion. And this sketchbook is quite amazing because it really shows the thought behind Maurice Prendergast's work and how he used the sketchbook as a tool for observing the world and then using that as source material for building his paintings and the work that he would sell at market. And so Maurice Prendergast was an artist who lived in Boston. He often traveled to Paris and visited Venice. And he was born in 1858. And he really found passion for art and continued to kind of develop that passion. He apprenticed for a commercial artist during that time period and really kind of learned this kind of flattened style of drawing and painting that we see in a lot of his works. Most of his work really focuses on everyday enjoyment. He loved to kind of capture these really beautiful scenes of people enjoying the park or the seashore or other kind of pleasant places that we might visit. And really kind of timely, I think, as we're reaching the end of summer and approaching fall. A lot of the work have these like beautiful colors that we see now. And Maurice Prendergast was coming into kind of into success and kind of becoming well known at the end of Impressionism. And the Impressionists were really kind of these artists that were leading the forefront in a painting style of capturing nature in its beauty and capturing it through movement and light paint strokes and line. And Maurice's work was moving into post-impressionism, which was kind of rebelling against that and really kind of trying to react against naturalism and to really explore color, line, form, adding kind of emotion and feeling into his work and really capturing the response of an artist to what they were seeing versus just capturing something for what it looks like. And so we can see that within the works that we have in the sketchbook as we see how he captured form and line and composed his images. And today we're going to talk a lot about composition and how artists use composition to tell a story and also kind of convey meaning and focus us kind of on what they want us to see within their work. And so we see that within his work. He often would draw kind of a landscape and a focal point in the foreground and then in the background, and then figures in the foreground to kind of show us how they're interacting with their environment. We see that he would use the full page in his sketches. When thinking about composition and how artists approach that within their work, they could use, thinking about how we crop images or how we focus in on a section of something that we see. We see how that Maurice Prendergast does that within his work and really using shape and line to convey what he's seeing. And so we see kind of this diagonal that we see in a lot of his work. He would create these triangular focus in his work to kind of show us where our eye should follow, almost kind of following these figures as they walk along the path here. His work was really colorful. Post-Impressionists during that time period were using a lot of color, bright colors found in nature. And so we see kind of in his sketchbook, these thoughts of colors that he was seeing and just jotting down kind of some texture. He often used his sketchbook. I'm sure that many of our viewers do that as well, a journal to kind of capture notes or things that he was seeing. And this is one of my favorites in his sketchbook that we have on view here in the galleries, really capturing this everyday scene of people enjoying the summertime or the springtime out on the lake. And we see, that he wasn't drawing in great detail, but using just light line, color, shape, and form, the elements of art, he really gave us a sense of what we're seeing. So we know that these are figures, right? But they're not fully drawn out figures. So these really beautiful images within his sketchbooks. The images almost look mosaic or almost like tapestry-like in his work. So these jewel-like colors that we might see in other forms of art, he really captured with paint. And so composition is really the way that artists use the basic principles and elements of art. So the elements of art, light, line, shape, and color, and the principles of art, composition really is kind of how artists align those to show us what they want us to see. And so that leads in really well, I think, today to the recipe that we are going to explore with Maite, which is a composed salad. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Maite to really talk to us about composition and how we use that aesthetic within food to make a pleasing recipe or cultural recipe.
Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, I love seeing that sketchbook. What a treat to have that, accessible, to be able to see that. And I love this whole idea of, composition and what you said about artists capturing nature and capturing the beauty, of the world, and just even, every day, and how artists start, composing a work of art, right? A painting, a drawing, or whatever it is. And that definitely applies to food. A cook, and I say cook, not chef, because I think this applies to every person that's in the kitchen. Aesthetics is such an important part or component of how we eat, right? And as when we cook, we think about not just, well, sometimes it's, okay, let me just make dinner to get something on the table, but really think about, colors and textures and finding a balance, just like an artist, puts the focal point down and just the way that an artist thinks about a composition on paper, that certainly applies to food. Particularly salads, and there's a particular type of salad called a composed salad. That's a very sort of French style of salad, or so they claim, the French, the salade composée. Oops, sorry. You can hear me, just keep going. This whole idea of this salade composée or the composed salad, which is different than a regular tossed salad where you put all of the ingredients in the bowl, add the dressing, and then just toss it all together. A composed salad is a bit more thoughtful than that. And it has a lot of different components. Probably the most famous composed salad is the Niçoise salad that has the base of, lettuce, and then the anchovies and the olives and tomatoes and tuna. We're making a variation on that composed salad. But a composed salad can be done with anything, with any vegetable that you have on hand. We're adding peaches and avocado to our composed salad today, just because we're getting to the end of summer. I have a ton of peaches that are about to go bad. It's something that you could just sort of make with what you have. In the dead of winters, you could use potatoes, apples, really whatever you have available. But I like to think of my composed salad as having different components. Like in the case of the salad that we're making today, we have the base of lettuce. So I have this really kind of crunchy, leafy, just plain lettuce. So there's that as the base, something leafy, and then something crunchy. In this case, we have crunchy and raw. So we have our crunchy cucumber. I have some crunchy red onion that we're going to put in it. I love to have something sweet. In this case, tomatoes and peaches. That's our sort of sweet element. Something earthy with our potatoes. And I got 3 different kinds of potatoes, and these are tiny. You can use any type of potato, but I'm using a white potato or purple potato and a red potato just for color. Something salty is also really important, I think, in the salad. In this case, I'm using black olives. These are actually salt cured black olives, but olives are great, anchovies are great, and then something meaty. In the case of the niswalad is tuna fish, just a can of tuna fish, and that's what we're adding today. So all of these together, the raw, the crunchy, the sweet, the juicy, the creamy with the avocado that we're going to add to it, it creates this beautiful balance. Rather than it being tossed together, we're going to sort of artfully arrange it and then drizzle the dressing over it. And it's something that's quite beautiful to put on a platter to serve, a group of people. And then of course the dressing that's just drizzled, everything is drizzled. And the salad, people have been making salads everywhere around the world, forever. And the word actually salad is attributed to sal, which is salt in Latin, because the ancient Greeks and Romans, the Romans were actually the first to really record this, but they were the first, technically, who wrote about it, to eat raw vegetables with oil, vinegar, and salt. So hence this word, salad. So that's where sort of this idea kind of, comes from. So I thought, inspired by Maurice Prendergast's work and the colors that he uses, the reds and the yellow and the reds, the reds and the greens that he uses in his work, we're going to kind of compose a summer salad inspired by these colors and by summer, right? For this, we're getting to the end of the summer, and it's such a great way to capture the essence of summer in a bowl, and all of these feelings that we have of summer, so we're sort of capturing them in a bowl. So should we start making the salad?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, so it has lots of different levels, lots of different layers of flavor. So some things are cooked, some things are raw. So I'm going to start cooking the potatoes. I have a pot of water here, and I'm just going to bring it to a boil. And for my potatoes. So I'm just going to actually put my potatoes in there. So these tiny little potatoes, the water is still cold. And just put my potatoes in there, and then I'm going to salt it pretty generously. We want the water to really have flavor. It's as if you were to salt, water for pasta, so that the pasta itself has flavor. We want to do that to the potatoes as well, because by themselves, potatoes are amazing, but they need a little help. So I'm going to salt it pretty generously. I'm going to add about a good, tablespoon of salt. And so I'm starting the potatoes just with cold water, and then I'm gonna fish those out once they're ready. So the potatoes are so tiny, it's not gonna take too long, maybe about 5 minutes, maybe a little longer. And then I'm gonna put my green beans in there. So we have the circles with the potatoes, and then we have these beautiful straight lines, sort of straight. There really is no straight line in nature, right? But we have these green beans. And you could use regular green beans, and I'm using these haricots verts, which are the French green beans that are a little bit just skinnier than the regular green beans. So these are actually native to Mexico. They're so fancy, these haricots verts, it's such a French thing. Green beans are actually native to Mexico. So I'm just gonna set that aside, get my potatoes going. And while my potatoes are going, I'm going to prepare just a simple vinaigrette. Again, this is all going to be drizzled. We're not going to toss the whole thing together, but I'm doing a simple red wine vinaigrette. And I'm going to start with a clove of garlic. And I'm using a small clove of garlic. I love garlic. I don't love super garlicky dressing for this particular salad, only because I really want all of the flavors to shine. So I'm gonna peel a clove of garlic and just mince it really finely. And this is just gonna add really great flavor to our dressing. So it's just a simple red wine vinaigrette. And I like to hold my knife really close to the blade and kind of make a little claw with my fingers. And then I'm just gonna really chop it really, really fine. So I'm just gonna mince it. So I have that part of it, and then I'm gonna go back, do a little bit more. Just so that all of the flavors are really well incorporated and you don't bite a big chunk of garlic, which again, I love, but not necessarily for this. So there's my garlic, really finely minced. I'm just gonna add this to a bowl. So I have my garlic. And I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar and 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. I think Dijon mustard is the best thing in the world. I love Dijon mustard. So 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. And I'm just gonna whisk this to incorporate it. I probably won't use all of the dressing, but you can save this. It's not gonna go bad. You could use this for a salad later. So I have a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, 2 teaspoons of garlic. I'm sorry, 2 teaspoons of mustard and a clove of garlic. And then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of olive oil. So it's typically 1 to 2. So 1/4 cup of vinegar to 1/2 cup of mustard. And then to this, I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of salt and about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. I'm using freshly ground pepper. You could use whatever you have. And speaking of Impressionists, Stacey, you mentioned the Impressionists. Claude Monet, probably the most famous of all Impressionists, way before Maurice, but he was obsessed with salads and with pepper. So legend has it that he used to make 2 salads, one for him and his wife with a ton of pepper, and then one with everybody else. So that's our dressing. Really, really simple. The best way to taste if it's salted, well, just dip a leaf. In this case, I'm gonna, dip a piece of green bean, taste it. And then you can decide whether you want a little more salt or a little more pepper. I think it's great. I might have a little more salt. Ooh, I think I had a little pepper go over. I'm gonna add a little bit more salt and pepper. And that's it for the dressing. So I'm just gonna set that aside.
That looks delicious.
Yeah, it's so simple, so simple. So my potatoes are just starting to come to a boil. The dressing is done. So I'm gonna just start prepping all of the different components of the salad. So the dressing is done, potatoes are starting to come to a simmer. So I'm just gonna prep everything separately. So this, I'm gonna make a little bit of a mess with lots of things, and I hope this doesn't scare people away, but I don't think it should. So I'm gonna start, just start prepping, just start slicing everything. So I'm gonna start with my raw crunchy cucumber. Just gonna cut the ends off. And you can do this with celery, basically just do it whatever you have at home. So I'm gonna choose this rest. I have this tiny little Persian cucumber. So I've just chosen to keep it just nice and round, just these little discs. And I think these are gonna look so beautiful. I mean, this green with the green of the lettuce and then the green avocado. I mean, so many different shades of green. Like, so I have my, my cucumber that I'm just gonna place in a little bowl and just set that aside. And then I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna use just a few small tomatoes. I'm just gonna cut 3 small tomatoes. And I'm just gonna take the tops off. And this, I'm going to quarter them. I want it to be kind of bite-sized. So I'm just gonna use 3. So beautiful. And I might put everything in separate little bowls. So I have my I have my cucumbers ready. I have my tomatoes ready. I'm gonna do some, actually I'm gonna do this next. I'm going to do a peach. You could do a nectarine, you could do a plum. All of the summer, end of summer, fruit, everything is going, whatever you use, there's really no wrong way to make a composed salad. With this, I'm also just going to thinly slice it. So I have some circles and I have some, I don't know, what shape would you describe this? Little half moons?
Half moons, yeah.
Half moons.
So in the same way that we talked about composition and how artists create composition through the organization of elements and the principles of art, a recipe, the ingredients are those principles, those kind of elements, right, that you're composing into your work of art.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And look at all of these colors. I mean, just here, right, I have the reds and just everything together already is so beautiful. And when you look at food, a meal, it really starts with the eyes. I mean, right now even the aroma. I mean, in this kitchen right now, all I can smell are these peaches. They're just so incredibly fragrant. So it just even starts with there. My fingers are a little garlicky, like my stomach is starting to growl. Like everything just comes. Everything is together. It's the same as what an artist does. So I'm gonna set my little peaches slices aside. And I'm gonna use this, some of this onion. I'm not gonna use a lot of onion, just a little bit of onion just for crunch. So I'm gonna probably use only maybe a quarter of the onion, if even that much. I'm just gonna slice it from one tip to the other. Cut this little end off just to make it easier for me to chop, and then just peel it. My potatoes are now boiling. I'm gonna cook them until they're nice and tender. Okay. So I'm thinly sliced because I just love it. I mean, onions, red onions I think are so beautiful. That color, those layers, more little half moons. So just have about 1/4 of an onion. And I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to wait until the very end to prep the avocado, because I don't want it to turn brown. So I pretty much have all of my components just ready to go. Right, so I'm going to do the avocado later. I have my butter lettuce that's ready to go. I have my green beans that are going to be cooked in just really soon, but I have my olives, cucumbers, tomatoes, peaches, and our little red onions here. I'm going to have my tuna fish. So what I'm going to do for now with the tuna fish is I'm just going to add, I'm not going to toss everything together, as I said at the beginning, because everything is sort of separate, but I am going to add some dressing to my tuna fish. Because I want this to have, well, I mean, I want everything to have a ton of flavor, but I really want this to be really nicely seasoned. So I probably added about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to add just a little bit more, just so that this is really nicely flavored. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to this. And we're ready with the tuna. I'm just going to set this aside. And I'm going to check on my potatoes. They're so tiny that they're gonna cook really, really quickly. I don't know if this quickly, but they're gonna cook pretty quickly. So let me just check. They're done when you pierce them with the tip of a knife, and they're really tender. So the term is fork tender. So you don't want to feel much resistance, but you also, when you poke it, you don't want the potato to fall apart. So just tender. So depending on your size of potatoes, usually for a potato like this, the little kind of new potatoes that are sort of smallish, they take about 10 to 15 minutes. These are really tiny, so it's going to be about 5 to 8 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm just going to give it another like 3 minutes or so. And then everything is going to be assembled really, really quickly.
The idea of balance and harmony and rhythm and proportion and scale, and that all of that translates really well, I think, to a recipe and the ingredients that you're including within that. And you have done that with the ingredients that you've selected in terms of proportion and scale. You have different sized ingredients. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a great point. I think because we have, the sweet and the salty and the crunchy and the creamy with the potatoes, it's all about creating a balance, right, in the dish. It's all about creating harmony within the flavors and the textures, and also, the size, right? We have the little olives, the cucumber that's a slightly larger, but it's also, but everything is also mostly bite size. So it just creates these different explosions of flavors and textures in your mouth. And I think that's something that a cook really looks for, whether they're thinking about this when they're trying to put dinner on the table or not. I think it's definitely something that's a part of, whoever is making the dish. It's something that maybe they're not really thinking about it, but that's definitely a part of it. You want to create this balance in flavors to create something that's harmonious, which would be, delicious. And I think that translates into what an artist does when they're sketching, right? When they're composing a work of art, or whether they're just doodling, right? They're just capturing, you know, the essence of something.
That's great.
Let's see. I think that these might be.
I never think to put potatoes in my salad. That's such a great idea as a starch to kind of balance that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the Niçoise salad always has these potatoes. So yeah, they're really nice and fork tender. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna put my green beans in, but I will also still wanna keep everything separate. So I'm just gonna fish them out with a slotted spoon and put them in a little bowl. So I'm just gonna use the same little bowl that I had them in. And for this, these are so tiny, but some of the larger ones I'm going to slice, and I do want to dress them, especially, I mean, dressing a warm salad with like oil and vinegar is such a delicious thing once they're cool enough to handle, because they just absorb whatever you put in them. They're just such a perfect, you know, vegetable. They really just absorb any flavor. So those are up. Water is, you know, still boiling. I haven't touched it, and I'm gonna put my green beans in there just for a couple of minutes. I want them to be really still crunchy. I just want some of that rawness to cook off. Even though that rawness is also very delicious, but I want that rawness to cook off. And they just basically, I want them to turn bright green and still be super crunchy. And that is pretty much it. So once I put them in, the water kind of stopped boiling because it was something new was introduced. But I'm just gonna give it just a minute. I want to show you because they do turn. There's nothing like a soggy green bean. You know, it's like soggy green beans are kind of gray, but when they first go into this water, this hot water, they turn very bright green. And then I'm going to drain them under really cold water, just to stop the cooking process so they retain their color. And let me just flip this over so you can see, right? So I think it's been about a minute. You could see that they're still really, really, really bright green. And I have a colander set up, and I'm just gonna drain these and run them under cold water. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just do that now.
Yeah, perfect.
Under cold water. And then we're gonna be ready to put it all together. And then we should sketch the salad, maybe.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Okay, I'm back. So I have my green beans here. I'm just gonna dry them really, really well. They're cool now. I ran them under cold water, but I just wanna dry them just because we don't want any water, just any water, you know, liquid watering down our vinaigrette. So I have my cool, still crunchy green beans. They're nice and salty. And now I'm just gonna put everything together. All right, I'm going to, just gonna remove this and place our bowl. Where did it go? Okay, so here's my bowl. I'm using this beautiful orange bowl, and I have my lettuce. So I'm going to use these leaves as a base. So I'm just going to put everything, just spread everything around. So I'm just going to cover up these holes, these gaps. There's one more leaf. It already looks so pretty. Let me spread this out.
The layering of the lettuce and the shadows that they make.
Right, it's so dramatic. so dramatic. It almost looks like mountains. So I think I'm gonna go traditional with the tuna, like they do in the salade niçoise. And I'm just gonna put a mound in the center. And with this, gosh, you could use really, you know, anything. It's typically this, you know, can of tuna, but you could also use fresh tuna. You could use any sort of thing that you want. You can also add, you know, cheese to it. So I'm just gonna just put that in the center and start. I think I'm gonna kind of work around. So I'm gonna continue. I already have a lot of greens. I'm just gonna do a little layer tomatoes.
It almost looks like you're composing a mandala.
Oh, yes, totally.
Very zen.
Very, very zen. I do feel very zen right now. And one thing that's important to do as you start, you know, layering is to start drizzling. I forgot to drizzle the lettuce, but start drizzling to make sure that everything has flavor. I did drizzle the tuna. Make sure that we have a little drizzle on the vegetables, on the tomatoes. And then I think I want to do some onion next. Of course, it's not going to be perfect because what is? I'm going to do, I'm thinking little layers of cucumbers on either side. And then I'm going to do some peaches here.
So pretty.
Put little sections of it. I'm going to tuck these little green beans in. Make like three little tufts of beans. And I'm going to slice the avocado. Let's hope that this is beautiful. Yes, that's a perfect avocado. I think for the avocado, I'm going to do cubes because we don't have any cubes anywhere.
That's always the best feeling when you open it up and you have that beautiful green.
There's a farmer's market not far from me that has I will only buy avocados from them because they consistently have the most flavorful and just the most perfect avocados, always. So I'm going to put these cubes, I'm just going to scatter these cubes around. Okay, I'm happy with that. A little more dressing. And then I have two more ingredients. I have my potatoes and my olives. So with the potatoes, let me just bring this over here for a sec. I mentioned that since I like to, some of them they're definitely cool enough to handle now. These are going to be just so, okay. This color is so beautiful. Look at that. They're so pretty. So it's like these different colors. It's amazing. Like nature just gets it right. I'm gonna use another one of these. And I'm just gonna dress these separately so that they really absorb. They're still warm, but again, they're cool enough. They're cool enough to handle. And I'm just gonna mix these. I might leave a couple whole. And I'm gonna add these to our salad. You know what? I'm gonna stick my fingers in there. They're clean.
That's what art's all about, getting messy, right?
Right, totally. Not being afraid to get messy and to play, to experiment. And last but not least, olives. If you don't like olives, you could use anchovies, or you could just skip it. Just give everything a little crack of pepper and just a little flaky sea salt, just to add yet another little element of just oomph. And that's our salad. That's our composed salad. So pretty, isn't it?
Really beautiful. And you used all of the elements of art and the principles of art within that. So we have shape, line, color, light, value. I mean, within everything that you did. And then as you composed it, the principles of harmony, balance, are all clearly utilized, and making that something that looks very delicious and pleasing.
Yeah, it is amazing because sometimes we think, you know, art, cooking, like everything is separate, like they're different categories, but art is in the everyday, like it's in the sort of, you know, it's everywhere, right? So you start, it's all about noticing these things, the value and balance, and all of these words that you just mentioned, they're really in the everyday, right? So I think it's really, this is just one part of it, making a salad, making something in the kitchen, but it really applies to just life in general, I think.
Absolutely. And I love how you said that if we take a moment to just notice, we see so much more than we saw before. And that, I think, can be applied in so many different ways in our lives to kind of appreciate what's around us. It's really great.
Absolutely.
So should we draw your salad?
Sure.
So one of the things, as part of our Thinking Through Drawing exhibition, we are so excited to give away free drawing kits, which many people received in their kit, or they can pick it up at our main galleries or within our community pop-ups. And within the kit, we have a sketchbook, colored pencils, and a regular pencil, an eraser, a sharpener, and all the things that you really need to kind of do some sketching and just kind of observe and notice what we see around us. And so I thought we would just walk through like a little thumbnail sketching exercise that you can use in lots of different ways. I know many people get nervous or shy away from thinking they have to be a great artist to, you know, to draw or to all of those things, but really sketching can be used in so many great ways to learn about our world. And so I just thought we could walk through 3 steps that I think really help us to focus in on using sketching as a way of observing. First, we would map out our basic shapes. The second step is really to just take note of the light, the shadow, the value, and the kind of the pattern that we see. And then last, kind of just adding in some extra details that we see. And we noticed that a lot in Maurice Prendergast's work in his sketchbook, how he layered in kind of those lines, those shapes, and kind of built his composition around that. So the first thing that we might do, if you want to zoom in there on your salad, is we can take our sketchbook, which we have that's kind of square, which is perfect, And we're going to want to create almost like a grid within our page. So really just if you want to create a line halfway through your page down and then a horizontal line halfway through your page, that can help us really divide up what we see. And then we know that our plate here is round. So if we want to, you can choose how you want to do that. Artists make their decisions about if they're going to zoom in on a portion of something they want to look at, or if they're doing something as a whole. In this case, I'm going to draw a circle in the center of the page for the full plate that we have here and show the whole design that you created because it's such a pleasing composition. This looks like a mandala. And then so we're really just going to start mapping out our basic shapes. So Maite, you created a focal point in the center of this salad, the niçoise salad with the tuna in the center. So if we kind of just start sketching out what that tuna might look like, there's lines within it. We can see that it's almost, there's a lot of texture. You don't have to be specific on what you see. You can just kind of almost like a scribble is what I did here to kind of focus in on the center. Perfect. And you drew almost like the general shape of it on the outside, where I kind of started in the center and worked out. And then we'll just want to start kind of working out from there. So we see that we have the cubes of avocado. We have this almost like half circles for the potatoes. We have the half moons for the peaches. And using just really our basic shapes, squares, circles, line, we can build out what we noticed. What we notice here with these beautiful lines from the red onion. And you don't have to be specific. I mean, you can really just quickly draw out what you see. I love the lines from the green beans and how they come off the plate. Really draw our attention to that.
I was drawing the green bean off the plate when you said that.
Oh, that's perfect. And I love like the folds in the lettuce. Really interesting to kind of try to capture those shapes that you see within that.
I love the sort of layering. There's like this little stack of cucumbers.
Layering for sure, I think is a great way to look at that. And also, we noticed that some of the shapes within this are darker than others. So how do we make those stand out? Using kind of a darker line or using the side of our pencil, kind of using the pencil as a tool to really capture all of that. And I love even like the detail within the cucumber. So once we have really kind of gotten our main shapes within the work, see, I just very generally, I mean, it doesn't look too detailed really, it's just the general shapes. Oh, yours looks really nice. So you selected certain things that really stood out to you. So I went fast and furious and tried to capture as much as I could see, as quickly as I could see. Were you really honed in on what you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting. Yeah.
So we all do it in our own way and how we see things. And then the last step is really just to start adding in some detail. So where do we see kind of the shadows? Where do we see kind of some of the details, like the center of the cucumber has these great seeds within it, or the tomato, or the way that a red onion almost has an outline around it with the purple and the white. And then, I'm filling in kind of where I see the darker shapes, the olives and the darker potatoes. And you can create different value by layering your pencil or your pen or your colored pencils in different ways.
Just hearing you say the details, like I started seeing pepper and I started seeing the shiny, the shininess of the oil. So it's interesting sometimes when somebody points something out, you don't see something until somebody points it out.
And how often do we stare at something for this long? I think that that's also a lesson to be learned. You know, I think they said in an art museum, people spend typically like 35 to 45 seconds in front of a work of art. So when you really take time to notice, all of those details really do come out. So yeah, that's a simple, quick exercise for thumbnail sketching, a way that you can start to kind of really capture what you see. You can bring your sketchbook with you to the park. Oh, that's great.
Yours too. Thank you.
I love that. And, you know, it's just a fun way to really build your observational skills, and it really enhances your way of thinking about and communicating about the world. So it applies to all aspects of your life. And the more you do it, I think the easier it is to do it as well. So practice, as well with cooking, right? Practice makes perfect.
100%.
Well, thank you so much. This was so fun to compose a salad with you, inspired by Maurice Prendergast's sketchbook in our collection. And we hope that everyone will come visit us to see the exhibition in person, visit us online. You can view those works as well. And that you'll take advantage of creating both this amazing composed salad, as well as really just starting to capture your world and sketch every day. Such a great way to bring mindfulness into your everyday.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Stacy. This is so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.